Welcome everybody to part 6 of the playlist of how to make a browser-based game over the internet. So we've made some decent progress over the last few videos with the migrations and the models. There's probably more models we need to add, but in this video we're going to be adding some dependencies for our UI and our data structure. So let's get started. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, since I've been making this video, no, since I've made the first batch of videos some months ago when I first started this playlist, one of the things we mentioned in part 3 was that Laravel had updated to version 8 and we did the upgrade. Well, we started again from version 8, just made the changes we'd done in the first two videos so that we have an up-to-date version of the game as regards Laravel's concerned. But I was also looking at some more technologies that are of interest, and one of them that's really caught my eye is a package here. You can see it on my Google homepage here called inertiaJS. Now, you might be familiar with this if you already are doing developing, and especially if you're doing Laravel, you may have heard of this, you may not. I don't think it's specifically for Laravel. I think it can work for Laravel or Rails from the server side point of view. Yeah, so if you're on Rails, which I think is that Ruby on Rails, I think, or Laravel, so it works with either. But it's how can I describe it? The reason why it caught my attention was I was looking for a number of stacks to see which one I wanted to pursue, and there's different ones out there. Another very common one, which if you're a Laravel developer, you you may have come across this Livewire, which is another sort of package really that just helps with the integration of the server side and the client side of an application. And Inertia is pretty much the same thing, but it works in a slightly different way. Livewire it renders the HTML on the server, but then can drop that HTML back to the client without the client having to reload the page. So then what the client does is it drops that rendered HTML into a DOM element and it just renders out on the page as HTML. If you need any extra client-side functionality, it uses something called alpine.js, which seems to work hand in hand with that. Inertia is a little bit different in that Inertia uses Vue.js as its front end. It's happy to continue using that. I think it also supports React and Svelte as well. I think Svelte is like what did he call it? A web component framework. So there's like Svelte, Stencil, and a few others. But obviously Vue and React are probably the ones you're most familiar with. So Inertia, as far as we're concerned, uses Vue. So rather than render HTML and drop that back into the client, Inertia gets the data it wants as JSON and drops the JSON into the client via the AJAX request, but it does it all automatically. So then with that JSON, Vue can take that JSON and do what it would normally do with a JSON object anyway. Render it, manipulate it, do whatever you want. So I suppose the main difference is that Livewire does all of the logical processing up on the server and renders it to client, whereas Inertia does the data fetching and perhaps some of the logic, renders it to the client, or I should say passes that to the client, and then the client, because it's in JSON, the client, or Vue in this instance, can still do something with that before providing its final output to the user. So, they've both got the pros, they've both got the cons. It depends on, perhaps if you're familiar with Vue, you may want to do the Inertia route. If you don't really know Vue, then, doing Livewire and a little bit of Alpine is probably the better option. But I use Vue quite a lot, so I chose Inertia. And I've been thinking, can I use this in this game? And I don't see why not. I was originally going to make this game as a complete standalone view package, but it's a browser-based game. I'm not going to make it as an app or some kind of standalone thing. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. And the beauty of Inertia is it does take out some of the hard work of getting the data down to the front end into view for us to use. And it utilizes some things in Laravel that a standalone view application can't do, such as routing. So the routes that we set up in Laravel can still be used by an inertiaJS frameworked app, even though it's using Vue on the front end. So there's some pretty good positives of using this, and hopefully they'll become apparent as we go through, because I am going to install Inertia as one of the frameworks we're going to be using. So let's get started with this. Let's get this in. This may just be for this video. If we've got time, we might do some other bits as well. But let's see how it goes. So we have official adapters for Laravel. So let's go to Laravel. Oh, I don't actually want to go to that. What I want to do is go to server-side setup. We need to composer require it. Now, this is a bit sort of embarrassing, but I haven't managed to properly configure my composer on my Mac. I got a new Mac recently, and I couldn't remember how to configure it in such a way where it doesn't run out of memory when you run a command line like this. And if I don't put that composer memory limit equals -1 at the beginning, it complains sometimes, a lot of the time. So I just put that in. If anybody knows how to remove that from a Mac, it was on. I didn't have to do it on my old Mac, so I don't know what I did. But anyway, you may not have to do that if you're on your Mac, or if you're on Windows, if you're using Git Bash, or if you're on, I don't know, some Linux variation and you're using Terminal or Xterm or whatever. You won't need to do that. It's just for some reason I have to do it. So we installed. That. So let's follow the rest of the installation. Set up the root template that will be loaded on the first page visit. This will be used to load your site assets. Hope you can see that. Your site assets, CSS and JavaScript, and will also contain a root div to boot your JavaScript application in. So not much different there, but I think what we'll do is create a whole new file rather than just modifying the stock Laravel ones. So let's just take that. Let's go to our code, and if we go to resources, views, layouts, and we'll call this one, let's call it Inertia. And let's just put that in there. Okay, yeah, looks fine. Let's see, by default the Laravel adapter will use the app blade PHP view. This template should be included in your assets. Oh, as well as your inertia directive. If you'd like to use a different root view, you can change it using inertia set root view. Oh, okay. So we have used a different one, so we do need to do this. What I would suggest is, if you want to just use the app one, should we just use the app one? Or shall we set root view? It doesn't actually say where to do it, does it? Let's just use the app one. Oh, where are we? PHP stop. So let's copy that. Yeah, because we're not going to need any of that. Okay, we can get rid of inertia. Okay, sorry about the detour there. Okay, asset versioning. While not required, it is highly recommended that you also configure automatic asset refreshing. To do this, you simply need to tell Inertia what the current version of your assets is. Okay, I don't know this, and I've not done it yet, and it says it's not required, so I'm going to leave that. And that's it, you're all ready to go. Okay, So we'll come back to the demo stuff in a minute. Let's just set up the client side. So we're on View. So we need to install the npm package. So let's copy that. Okay, initialize the app. So next, update your main JavaScript file to boot your Inertia app. All we're doing here is initializing the client-side framework with the base Inertia page component. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and resources JS app. So I'm thinking that just goes in here. So this is where I would normally boot up the Vue stuff. So we just paste it in here, see what happens. Okay. Let's try it. See, can only go wrong, can't it? It receives a page name string and must return a component instance. Okay. So it goes into the pages folder. Do we have a pages folder? No. So let's put one in. Okay. So it wants pages slash name. And name, how to load the page? It receives a page name string. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Let's see how this pans out. Okay. Yeah. No, we don't need that. Yeah. Not bothered about that. Code splitting. I'm not bothered about that for now. Finally, update the resolve component callback in your app initialization to use import instead of require. Oh, why is that? Because that's the code splitting in it. Yeah, we don't need to do that. Consider using cache. Well, I'm not fussed for that for now. So, is that it? Let me just check the M file. Okay, so this is going to be Deuteros.test. Shall we try it? Oh, well, okay, that bit's worked. Okay, let's see if we can register a user then. That'll tell us if the database is working, but obviously we have a more immediate issue. So let's see, undefined variable page. Page is undefined. Okay, I found out what we need to do. We do need to handle this slightly differently. So I was sort of on the way to creating an override function here, public function show registration form, and we do actually need to do this. But what we do is that this is where now the inertia system kicks in and we start to do things differently than we would in traditional Laravel. So let me just write return, but then let me take you back to the web page we were looking at before when we were setting up server side. Here, yeah, this will do. So you'll see this here. We've got some data, which we would normally do in Laravel, but then we don't return view, which is what we would do normally. What we do is we return inertia render, the name of the view, and then the data. Now, this here becomes the page variable that is missing here. That's important to remember from now on when we come to render stuff in Inertia. So for example, if I just copy that and paste that in here. So I'm going to do this into a subfolder called auth and then a file called register, and I'm not going to put any data in here, although it does want me to import the inertia class. That's fine. So auth register, okay. So now down here I set up a pages, you remember this? So now what I need to do inside there is do a new directory called auth. Now you don't have to put these files into subdirectories. This auth folder is now just for my convenience for the organization of the files. But for me it just makes sense to sort of put the authentication stuff inside its own folder here. So I'm going to put that in there, and then what we'll do is just put a div registration, so we know we're actually in that page if we're successful. So let's see if that works. Okay, view app not found, so at least we've got past that error message. Okay, one thing I haven't tried yet, which I've just realized, is I've built a view page, but I haven't built it with npm run dev. If you're using Vue, you need to compile it. Now we could run npm run watch and just have it on constant sort of run whenever we save changes, and I'll probably set that up in a bit. But just for the minute, I just wanted to manually do this and see if it is that. So we'll just give this a second to compile. And there we are. So let's see if that's changed the error. No. Oh, it was worth a test, a shot. Okay, so yes. Okay, bit of a okay, let's put that one back the way it was. Close that file down, and the layout file that it wants actually for inertia doesn't sit inside the layouts folder. It sits at this root level here. So what I need to create is app.blade.php here on the root level of the views, not in the layouts folder. Okay, that should at least fix that error, and it does. And now we're rendering registration, which means the view file for registration has also compiled as well. So that's brilliant. I think we'll call it a quits there, because what we've successfully done is installed inertiaJS. We've got a page working in inertiaJS, so we know that it works. What I want to do now is just get some good, neat little templates for, or think about the templates for the views for the data that we've got at the minute. But for now, I'm happy with where we are with this. So I'm going to push this up to the repo so you can have a look at that. Should be a link in the description. And if you like the video, please click like. Any comments on inertiaJS would be welcome as well if you think maybe I've made a mistake there, or just your observations. And obviously if you want to keep watching these videos, please click the subscribe button. I really do appreciate that. But until the next video in the series, thank you for watching.